Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano video. So in this one, I got to sit down with Josh from the book.io team to find out all about what they're doing and how they're looking to revolutionize the book publishing industry. And one thing that really stood out to me early on was some of the big name investors that they had from the book publishing industry, which shows that they see book.io have something to offer here. And another thing is that a lot of times we see that there is blockchain solutions found and then they look for the problem that they could solve later on. But with this, there is a problem there, and the blockchain looks like it could be a really good solution to give a lot of power back to the authors of different books that are out there. The team have also given me a few books to give away: Alice in Wonderland on Ethereum, Art of War on Polygon, and a Gutenberg Bible on Cardano, which was their first mint. So I'll give the details on how to win that giveaway towards the end of the video. Give the video a like, share it out if you think others can benefit. I do appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new. Let's jump into the interview. Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano video. Sitting down with book.io today, probably an overdue interview to find out everything they're doing, kind of trying to change a very traditional industry and bring it to the blockchain. So I have Josh from the book.io team today. Josh, very welcome. Thanks for taking the time to come on.
Hey Paul, thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so look, there's lots to get through, so we'll jump straight into it. Can you give the who you are and then who or what book.io are?
Yeah, so I'm Josh. I'm the CEO and founder. I've been in the digital publishing space since probably about 2008 or so, when I first started interacting with some publishers. And so book.io specifically, we are a blockchain-based platform for ebooks and audiobooks. So unlike a lot of NFTs that are just image-based, what we do is we use an NFT as part of the ownership verification, but we put the entire book itself completely decentralized and on-chain, so that the book can never be, shut down or taken down. You always have access to your books.
Okay, nice. So we'll get into more of the specifics of that now in a few minutes. So traditionally, we do have ebooks. We have things like Kindle and everything like that. But once you buy the book, you can't do anything with it, as far as I know, for a Kindle, can you?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So what you really buy, if you buy a book currently, any ebook really, or audiobook, or or song or video for that matter, you're really just buying a license to look at that and consume the media, but you don't actually own it. So as opposed to, if you buy a physical book, I actually own that book. When I'm done reading it, I could pass it on to a friend, or I could take it to a secondary resale shop and sell it and get some amount for it. That concept doesn't exist for digital media, and specifically for digital books. So if you buy a book on Kindle or Audible at any time, the publisher or the author, or even Kindle themselves, the retailer, could decide that they want to take that book down, or they could change the contents of that book. And you don't really have, after you read it, you can't do anything with it. It's just stuck on your bookshelf sort of forever until they decide to take it away, or you lose access or unsubscribe, or, you don't truly own those. So blockchain allows us to now own those digital, assets completely, so it can never be taken away from you.
Okay, so say someone wants to get a book from book.io. They found a book you published that they like. What's the process of them doing that?
So if they're an author, we're building out a portal right now. We work, we've been doing a lot of stuff sort of individually. What we're working towards is having like a full portal that an author could come in. They can select a quantity, they can upload and or create art. They could pick what blockchain they want to mint to, and then they can deploy that book at a certain number of quantity. So we're trying to build towards like an entire marketplace support for something that exists sort of outside of the current crypto bubble. While I've been in crypto for quite a long time, and like it's a really fun place, it's a pretty small bubble compared to the amount of people that purchase a digital ebook or audiobook. And that's what we're really trying to tap into, is using infrastructure. Like blockchain is the infrastructure to power the way that digital books and audiobooks should work.
Yeah, and just the actual book then, is there one copy of that stored on the blockchain and it's I buy an NFT, the NFT, is that my access to the book that's on the blockchain, or is the book part of each NFT?
So it's kind of both and. So if you buy the NFT, what that really constitutes is a very small piece of metadata that is pointing to the several different assets that are all decentralized. So really what happens is when we take a book, we break it apart, we create a bunch of files out, we shard it, we encrypt all of those pieces. We also create a manifest file that basically says this is how this is to be reordered, and an encryption key that will decode all of it. And so your NFT basically brings that access, pulls all of that down into our DApp reader, and then reorganizes and recreates the book. So we kind of do it two different ways, depending on what the exact copyright agreements are, where most of the time it is a one-to-one match. So like if you own that book, like the assets that are out there that exist for your book are they're your individual encrypted pieces that nobody else can has access to. So this allows us to do interesting things too, where we can individualize, we can create content inside of the book, inside of each book that's different. If it, in times that it makes sense, where it's like a certain percentage of the book is duplicitous, right? Like maybe 90% of the story is the same. We can reuse those components just from a sort of a environmental green standpoint, to not just clog up a bunch of space. So we kind of have the option to pick, like, and really honestly it comes down to specifics from a publisher or an author about exactly how that content should work.
Okay, and you mentioned there as well that when the publisher goes in, they pick the chain that they're going out on. So you guys are cross-chain or multi-chain. Is there any specific chain you go towards first, or is it just the books will be distributed wherever the publisher wants?
Yeah, kind of the last part. We started off with Cardano. Our CTO RJ is a really great Haskell engineer, and has been, he could write books on Haskell. We had previously, he and I worked at another book company that we built and sold. So he has a ton of experience in the book industry as well. So we picked Cardano first just because of the Haskell entry point. We also picked it specifically because of the proof of stake model at the time. So a lot of publishers actually have corporate mandates sort of in approaching blockchain, that they won't work with proof of work chains just because of the environmental impact, since they chop trees down, and they don't want to be perceived as like contributing to like any environmental issues. So some of that's changed, right, since Ethereum went to proof of stake, and then L2s like Polygon. So we take sort of a blockchain agnostic approach, and that we want to allow the creator to pick what chains they want to deploy to. So currently, and primarily, I'd say we deploy to Cardano. We have books on Ethereum, we have books on Polygon, and we just introduced books on Algorand as well. I don't think that we will just have hundreds of different blockchains, but ones that make sense for specific purposes, right? Like it may make more sense to have, a very highly collectible, very limited edition on like Ethereum versus like maybe like a more mass implementation on like a Cardano or an Algorand or something. But it really just comes down, like you said, at the end of that, the creator gets to choose, right? So if an author comes in and they have some reason or rationale or purpose for why, maybe they have other projects on a particular chain, and they want to keep all of their projects with that specific chain, that's great. We don't mind. Most publishers and authors have no idea what we're even talking about. I mean, literally, like I've been in meetings where publishers are like, I don't know what blockchain means, right? And they think that blockchain is basically like internet, and there's just one blockchain. They don't even understand that there's like multiple blockchains. So a lot of times, like we guide those conversations and like try to unpack and explain like what it is and how it operates. But ultimately, like when you really start talking about this, real true mass audience of like over 1 billion plus people that buy and read ebooks, like ultimately, like they're not going to care. So what we try to do is really steer those conversations so that we optimize, we're optimizing frame performance for the end user. We want things to be really fast. We want things to, to operate and function the way that it's an expected behavior, like you would if you purchased a book from Kindle.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to get to that actually, just because you had said that you're not targeting people that are already in crypto. It's the mass market out there. And just like I talk about, gaming could be a way to educate people and bring them into crypto. I think this could be one too. And they don't care what blockchain they're coming into first. They want ease of access to be able to come in the future. To me anyway, it's going to be all about the UI. How easy can you make the UI and the UX for the end user coming in that doesn't really care what's happening underneath? As much as we want for decentralization, there's certain things that the end user, until they understand things a bit more, won't really care about. So it is all about how easy and how close to the traditional system you can make it for them. Does everybody have to have a crypto wallet of their own when they're coming in to buy a book, or is there an easier on ramp for them yet?
So for some chains, yes. So I mean, it's a really good point, and that's really what we're trying to build towards, right? We're trying to build towards, and I would say, we're still early days, right? Like we only launched for our first book just less than a year ago. We have native iOS and Android apps. We have a web reader. We have our own sort of retail marketplace. So we've built a lot of stuff, but it still is. In my opinion, like we're probably still too crypto. It's like the early days of the internet, right? You got to get a modem and you got to dial up to, a service. And like, there's a lot of steps and hoops you've got to jump through in order to like, get there. And I feel like in a lot of ways, that's a lot of how, utility-based blockchain solutions are currently. They're still a little bit cumbersome and difficult. And it's like most people aren't going to install, a browser plugin to manage their stuff. So we started to implement some stuff on a couple of chains. Like we have it built so that when you create an account, it can automatically generate like what we call a self-directed wallet that they don't have to interact with at all. It just automatically sets it up. In the background, they have full access to it. They can go generate the seed phrase and do all that from their settings. But, I feel like when you really get, to that mass market side, it's like 99.9% are not going to care about that portion of it necessarily, just like they don't care if Kindle is written on top of Rails or PHP or Python. But we are, like you said, like the UI is extremely important. Like so we're working towards and crafting and constantly trying to simplify and make the process really, really easy so that anybody can come in with zero crypto experience. They can create an account and get a book and start reading it and not have to know any blockchain specific stuff.
Yeah, I think you could scare off a lot of your audience if you're trying to educate them on how to set up a crypto wallet, how to use it, your seed phrase, how important it all is. If you're trying to throw all of that at them at once, then they're just going to go to Amazon. Even if you guys do have lots of benefits over them, they want something that's simple, especially this day and age. People want stuff that's easy and works fast. So for people who come in then and then start to learn a bit more about blockchain, at least then they have the option to generate the seed phrase, take that out, have self-custody themselves then, or maybe move it out into a wallet that they've created freshly. So I think there will be a whole onboarding process there and potential to bring a lot of new people into crypto once they start to get curious about how it all works underneath. And especially, I think when they go to start selling books later. So if I buy a book now, and I think, okay, I've finished it. My 10-year-old has got crazy into reading lately, and she's reading 2-3 books a week now in the summer holidays. So it's like you're constantly buying her new books, or you go to the library and get books and stuff, but she's flying through them. But a lot of the hard books just sit there. So if you had the ability to be able to sell them on, I think then people get interested in how is that actually possible then. So
Definitely.
Early investors, one thing that caught my eye as well is you got some big names in there, and you got some names from the publishing industry that backed the company early on, which was a big thing because you are coming in to try and disrupt that industry. But do you want to talk just a bit about that, some of the names that are there and how you're able to get people from the industry? That tells a lot about what they see in what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, we had myself, my co-founder Ben, and RJ and Alex and several of us have built and previously sold an ebook reading platform. So we worked with all, in the US, there's primarily 5 large publishers. They really control, honestly, like most of the world publishing too, like through all of their subsidiaries and imprints. We had worked with all of them. We'd had basically the same catalog that Amazon has, a book catalog. And so one of our previous investors at that company, we raised money. We built out the company. We sold it to a private equity company. One of the original investors was a company called Ingram Content Group, and they are the largest book distributor in the world. So they have operations set up all over the world. And I mean, I'd say the vast majority of books, especially if you order a book online, if you order a book from Amazon, they either warehouse and pack and ship that from centers they have all over the globe, or a lot of times they print those on demand. And it's pretty incredible. Within like 48 hours, they can completely print and put the cover on and bind it and pack it and ship it and get it to your door. And so they were one of our first investors in this. I talked with them for probably maybe a year leading up to it, and just talking about kind of what the evolution of what blockchain could mean from an infrastructure perspective in publishing, and how radically different and disruptive it will be from a rights management and a true ownership side. So along with them, we also have a company called Bertelsmann, their digital investment arm, their Bertelsmann Media Digital Investments. Bertelsmann owns Penguin Random House, which is the largest trade consumer book publishing house in the world. They own, I mean, literally, I bet probably thousands of different imprints, and massive chunk of the catalog, probably half of the world's catalog, or somewhere in that range. So they're very interested in it. They came in. They actually own BMG Music as well, and a bunch of other stuff. They're the largest media conglomerate in Europe. So we were very particular about wanting to partner with investors that understood the industry, that gave us access and clout, so that we could bring this in as like a legitimate, real solution. And in a lot of ways, the current licensing model sort of just kind of happened on the industry and sort of evolved as time went on, but it's definitely not necessarily the best for the publisher or for the author. And so we think that, digital ownership also, along with, like your daughter, right? Like being able to resell those books as like an end consumer, even more so as the publisher author, having the ability to know who owns those books and have inventory management, and being able to then communicate with people that their reading audience is, the other side of the coin, that really sort of opens up this whole new world that hasn't just impossible in the licensing side of it. So, and along with those two, we also have Mark Cuban. We're located in Dallas, Texas, and Mark's here. And so actually real early on, he had been speaking about how blockchain could really fundamentally change books. And I think some of our audience had started to ping him about it. And then he ended up following us, and we connected. And then a couple of weeks later, he really wanted to invest in it. So excited to have him. He is very Polygon focused, and going back to kind of creator choice, like he has a book. We released his book on the platform. It was only on Polygon, but as a creator, as an author, like that's the choice that we want to present, right? If an author like wants to put it on a particular chain, that's fine with us. But he's opened up a lot of great doors. Just I think from a business perspective, and a blockchain specific, like is just really connected, has really opened a ton of doors for us on a lot of back end like infrastructure stuff, and different like development companies that are doing different things. So it's been great. Yeah, we were pretty. Those are only 3 investors. We really tried to be very particular about who and why, and not just take money from any person that randomly wanted to invest, and didn't really get us like a strategic advantage in the industry.
Yeah, I think them names definitely attract a lot of attention, especially on my side when I heard about the project first, and then when I heard them type of investors were into it, that caught my attention, because not every industry is ready to change and move, especially when digital come in. You look at the photography industry and stuff like that. A lot of companies got left behind because they didn't see the possibility of change. And it's great to see big names are open to that, and by the sounds of it, are helping you to push that forward. And even Mark probably opens a lot of doors, and his brand, the brand recognition of having him as a part of it, It's puts your name out there a lot to people looking into it. So moving on from that, you do have a token, book token. There was an initial token, but you're now having a new token coming out. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So the original token I minted back in June of 2021, and that was, I think, in March of 21 was when when Cardano, I can't remember which deployment it was, but you could create a native token. But it was prior to the time when there was metadata support and before Cardano scan, where we could have a divisible token. So so basically what we're having to do is go back and remint a token that is divisible. It's a fixed supply of 10 billion tokens, but we need the capability to divide the tokens up, right? So, even at 10 billion, comparing that to the world, market of digital readers, there's over, like 1.1 billion digital readers. So even if that was proportionally divided, like it would be less than even like 10 tokens a piece. So we really need to have a token that's divisible down to 6 decimal places. So we created a new token. We set up a token swap too for the people that had got the seed token back in I guess it was probably January of 22, and so they can swap their token out for the new token, and then we're having a initial token offering sale that will start on June 20th and run through September 20th.
Okay. July 20th, is it, or June 20th?
Oh, sorry, yeah, July 20th. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Time is all crazy in crypto world. It's like it feels like every month is about a good 6-month interval.
Yeah, time works different when you're in crypto. But the details for all that, I will leave it down below for anyone interested in it. I think the first round is only for the Bible holders, is it? That was your first mint?
Yeah, our first mint. So it's actually on July 20th is our 1-year anniversary from when we released our first book, which was the sort of an homage to mass printing. It was the original Gutenberg Bible in Latin, like the 1455 edition of it. And we did that specifically kind of at the time just to demonstrate the capability of it, because that book in particular is about maybe 8 or 10 times the size of a normal book. Had a bunch of high-res images and like a decentralized video, and like we were really kind of showing like our capability set. So so July 20th is our 1-year anniversary. So that's when the token sale will start. And if anybody that has one of those original, the very first, we call them decentralized encrypted assets. So we don't necessarily refer to them as NFT books, although we do quite a bit call them NFT books. But really they're we use an NFT, but we're also using a lot of decentralized storage and like a smart contract to say like exactly how the book functions. There's a lot of things that go into it. So we sort of bundle all that together and call that a decentralized encrypted asset. So anybody that has that first one will get early access to the token sale. And then we'll have I think a 48-hour period for whitelist, which is free to sign up on our website. And then after that, it goes to a public sale.
Okay. And that's, from what I've seen, that's in time increments. There's a few days between each round is open for a few days then at that point.
Yep, you're correct.
Okay. So anything else that we haven't kind of covered on book.io there that you can think of?
Let's see. We're really excited about the token side of it. The other purpose of that really is because what we're implementing is what we call read to earn. So it's it's really a process to incentivize reading. So as everybody, once we launched the program, this was kind of the reason for a divisible token as well. Every 4 hours, you're basically competing with everybody else on the planet, and then you receive a proportional amount of token based on the amount of content that you've read. So we're building a lot of reading verification tools into our reading platform, so that we can verify and check exactly how much a user has read in that time frame, and then we reward them with our token. And honestly, when you look at, we released a new white paper. It covers a lot of this stuff as well. We actually minted, I think, 6,000 copies of the white paper. It breaks down exactly how that works, but 50% of the entire token supply goes towards this read to earn program, and it extends over a 50-year period. So similar to Bitcoin. It has like a halvening cycle, but it happens every 2 years. So there's 4-hour disbursements that happen every day, every 4 hours. So that way it can be very equal globally, and it's not necessarily just like a 24-hour window. But that's kind of the bigger purpose. Like we say that, you know, our mission really is to decentralize knowledge and to incentivize it. So a lot of times in the publishing industry, it's very focused on just the sort of consumer side of, you know, just sell more books, and they don't necessarily, I think they have, you know, most, not all, but a lot have good intention and want their books to be read, but there hasn't really ever been a mechanism that directly incentivizes people to actually read the content. So we think that's a very important thing to add. And we know, just like looking at, you know, tons of statistic data, that, you know, higher, you know, societies and economies that have a higher education level have less crime, less violent crime. So we think worldwide, like introducing a mechanism where people can read to earn, we think it, you know, long term can have like a really huge impact. And so we're super excited about that. We've got some other great stuff planned that's going to come up this summer. We plan to release the first audiobooks, and we have a larger marketplace that we'll be releasing as well. But yeah, right now it's just like super focused on all the token issuance and making sure everything's right and locked down on it.
Nice, yeah. Sounds like lots going on. The audiobooks will be very interesting. We'll have to do a catch-up call maybe then when you're launching the audiobooks and check that out and see how all that works. I like the read to earn too, and incentivizing people. And the actual book token, then will people be able to buy more books with the book token, or where does the token fit into it?
Yeah, so in the white paper, it really explains it's quite a large ecosystem with a tremendous amount of utility built into the token. So very much the opposite of a meme token in basically every capacity. So the way the system functions is that book token is required to create DEA books. So it's required from a content creator perspective in order to create and generate those books. And then also, as users earn that token, they can use it to purchase more books. They can use it to access book clubs. When they, you know, there's a lot of inbuilt ways where book token is flowing kind of around and back and forth. Sometimes certain titles will only be available to purchase with that. And then actually one thing too to mention, our partnership with Ingram, the printing, on the printing side, we have a thing called Mint and Print that we're going to be launching where, you know, for a lot of our collectible books and even for our mass books as well, you can order like a one-of-one printed copy. I think I actually have one here, yeah. So this is an example. I got another one in here, but this is an example of a Frankenstein one-of-one book. This is the artwork for a single NFT, and then we can print the actual book. And this is something we're super excited about because it truly allows us to start to bundle print and ebooks together, which the industry hasn't really had a secure way to do that yet. So yeah, and you'll see, within the white paper, like I said, we minted like 6,000 of those. Those are like collectible white papers, but we have a white paper on Medium and a PDF download as well. And there's a lot of charts, and it's very, it's a lengthy white paper. I think it's about 45 pages or something. That goes into great detail about just like the whole ecosystem and the recirculation of the token and why it exists and like how it can be used.
Yeah, I'll put links to that down below for anyone who wants to dive a bit deeper into it. And one part just before we finish up is we talked about reselling the books, but we didn't talk about what that does for the publisher or whoever writes the book initially. So when someone writes the book and gets it published, can they set a royalty on it, or how does that process work that they benefit from future sale, as well as me who buys the book? I can get something back by selling the book on. The publisher or the author actually benefits too.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a huge thing for them, right? Because on the print side, they obviously don't receive anything if a book resells, and that concept doesn't exist currently on the digital side. So this really will, for the first time ever, open up the ability for an author or publisher to earn basically ongoing royalties as that book continues to sell. So they can set what they want that royalty structure to be. A lot of times, we recommend and encourage them based on what particular chain they're on, like what a standard is for that. But it's true, and then the interesting thing as well is like, say that, say you're really into like John Grisham books or something, and you buy and you sell those, you buy them, you read them, you resell them and stuff. And so you don't necessarily have any on your shelf right now, but you've read several of those. Since we have all that data from a blockchain perspective, it gives the author and publisher the ability to say, okay, not only can they see who has those John Grisham books right now, but everybody who has previously owned them. So when John Grisham has, another title coming out, he can actually communicate to his audience of people that have read those and currently hold them. So it creates a lot of benefits, and then of course they receive those royalties as those books trade, and it opens up this market for them to have a digital collectible side as well. So a lot of times we think of it in terms of, if I walk into a bookstore, there's a big bulk of the bookstore that's just the mass trade books, and then there's a smaller sort of collectible portion, and we're kind of focused on that collectible portion right now. We're starting to bleed off into the more mass side of it, where it could just be a large issuance of a book with like a single cover, and on the other end of the spectrum, we do a lot of, one of one, very particular collectible ones as well. So it really gives this huge, spectrum of different options that an author or publisher can select different, multiple options in there as well.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I think that's a huge incentive for authors to actually go through the process like this, especially if you can make the end user experience very close to what they're traditionally doing with other e-readers. Then it's definitely a big incentive for them to get involved like that. I think we've covered a lot of the basics, what you guys are doing now, where it's came from, and hopefully anyone new into book.io or into the space, trying to see where blockchain technology can be used in that's what we call it, the real world or outside of blockchain, trying to see where integrations can be. I think this is a very good example. Lots of times we see crypto companies building a solution and then they look for the problem later on, where I like projects like this that see a problem and actually find a fit for blockchain rather than trying to force the two of them together. I think there really is a fit here. So thanks very much for coming on. We will do a catch up maybe in around when you bring out audiobooks and see how things are going at that point. Any closing thoughts or anything we should have mentioned?
I don't think so. And that sounds great. Would love to do a catch up, and then at some point too, we could maybe chat about what we're going to be doing and launching in the music side as well, which will be kind of a sister property to book.io, which will be real exciting. But yeah, really appreciate your time, and thanks for having me on, Paul.
No worries. Yeah, I appreciate yours coming on too. I know you're very busy. Anyone watching, please do share it out. Let people know what's going on. Subscribe if you're new. Leave some questions or even leave one for the algorithm. It does help down below. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully that has given you a good insight into what book.io are doing and what they're looking to do going forward. As I said at the beginning, there are some books to win in a giveaway. I might give one away on Twitter, but two of them will be here on YouTube. And the way to do it is share the video out, give it a like and comment down below, put in book, and then put in whatever book is your favorite that they have minted so far or one you'd like to see them mint in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. I do appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon.